Virginia, as we are gathering to support the Freedom to Vote Act. And so my name is Ryan Frankenberry. I'm the state director of the West Virginia Working Families Party. We're here at the state capitol to kick off a 300-mile caravan from here through Fairmont, Morgantown, across to Charlestown, West Virginia, just today. And then tomorrow, we hand off the baton for a relay in Harpers Ferry that's going to head to D.C. over the next 2 days for a rally to support the Freedom to Vote Act in D.C. We've got a great lineup of folks here to offer their support for the Freedom to Vote Act, and I'm just going to go ahead and hand it off. We're going to start with Reverend Derek Bionde to offer some words.
Good morning, everyone. The West Virginia Faith Table has been praying and fasting diligently for the Freedom to Vote Act. And today, this day is a monumental day. And so this is the day that we need to mark with prayer. And I'd invite you to join me in prayer. God, Lord, each and every voice matters to you. You hear every cry, you hear every prayer. And Lord, our system of government is based on hearing the cries of its people. So Lord, make a way. Open doors, open hearts, transform minds, that, Lord, we can protect these rights and make sure that every citizen's vote counts. Amen. Right.
Thank you, Derek. Let's get this kicked off. We are honored to have Josh Seward, president of the West Virginia AFL-CIO, join us to offer his support. Josh, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am Joshua Sword, president of the West Virginia AFL-CIO, and we proudly support the Freedom to Vote Act. And you know, Natalie, it's quite sad that we have to have federal legislation to protect every American's right to vote. It's really sad. But what we're seeing throughout this country is an attack on our rights, our fundamental constitutional rights to participate in the electoral process. So guess what? We need Congress to pass this bill, and we need them to pass it right now. Here are just a few things that this common sense bill, this compromise bill led by our Senator Joe Manchin does. It calls for an Election Day holiday, a federal holiday, to make Election Day more accessible to Americans all over the country. It makes early voting uniform, so you don't have all these inconsistencies all over the country, in hopes to reestablish the integrity of our electoral process. There are minimum standards for vote by mail. There are standards for voter ID. There's expanded voting access for our servicemen and women overseas who are fighting for our freedom. There's a protection of election records. This is just a few. Nonpartisan redistricting. We just watched behind me, obvious gerrymandering, partisan gerrymandering. This bill addresses that. It's much needed. And it also goes after the dark money that's been ruining our election cycles for years and years. And that's just to name a few. I do want to give a shout out to our Senator Joe Manchin for leading the charge on this. He rolled up his sleeve, he went to work, and he does what he does best and reached compromise across the political spectrum. Now, look, we have to do more. It's not just about this bill. We have to get involved. We have to participate in the electoral process. Right now, big corporations and other bad actors have way too much power and control with what's going on in this country. We have got to step up and take the power back. The people have the power. That's what we've got to do. It starts today with the Freedom to Vote Act. Thank you all very much. Let's get it done.
Thank you, Brother Josh. Next up, we've got several delegates here. I want to bring it over to Kayla Young, delegate here in Charleston.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so Good morning. I'm so excited to be here to support the Freedom to Vote Act. as my friends have said, voting is of the utmost importance. It's the most important thing we can do to make sure everybody has equal access to vote. Here in West Virginia, we've got pretty good election laws, and that was thanks to Secretary of State Joe Manchin about 20 years ago, who made sure that we had early voting and that we had access to the polls, and it's something that every American deserves, not just here in West Virginia. So we're hoping to see this vote on the floor today and hope that it moves forward, because honestly, I think voters should pick their politicians and not the other way around. So let's get it done.
Thank you, Delegate. Joining us now here from the West Side, Delegate Jim Barak.
Thank you very much. Yes, 36th District. Thanks, everybody. This is something very important to me. The right of Americans to vote, every eligible American to vote. And, we heard a lot about in the last election about voter fraud, about election fraud. And there is election fraud in this country, and it's going on behind the scenes. It's the actions that are done by certain groups to try to prevent qualified American citizens from voting. And we've got to make it so that every eligible voter can get out to the polls and cast their ballot. That's what democracy is about. That's the only way we're going to protect our freedom and our country and our democracy. So I urge the passage of this bill, and I urge everyone to get out and vote, and we've got to keep our democracy intact and give everyone the right to vote. Thank you very much.
I'm a sneaky guy. So we're also so glad to have Secretary of State Natalie Tennant join us on the whole Caravan, and we're excited to have her voice here. Natalie, would you like to say a couple words? I'm sure you would.
What kind of question's that? Hello, everyone. I am fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm driving a big old truck all the way up the interstate, so look out. I'm not very good at it.
Freedom truck.
Yes, the Freedom Truck. My dad doesn't know that yet, but I need Katie to write a few things on the back. Listen, I know you are. We are here because I have talked to many of my former colleagues who are election officials and election administrators. The fear that they have and what they've said is 2020 was only practice. Now think about that. 2020 was only practice. Practice for what? Practice for sabotage. Practice for voter subversion, election subversion. That the results don't count, and if we didn't win, then we're going to do whatever we need to do to make that happen. Now don't think that it can't be done. Don't think that West Virginians all pristine and we've done great things, and I brought online voter registration and automatic voter registration. It's not enough. We have to stand strong, because it happened in West Virginia. I shudder to think that on these same grounds, after our election was certified, there was a Stop the Steal rally. So you want to talk about sabotage? That Stop the Steal rally was trying to sabotage the election results. That's why we need the Freedom to Vote Act. That is the course that took place. Yeah, we didn't get For the People Act passed, did we? We couldn't put it through. Senator Manchin said he didn't want that. All right, Senator Manchin, well, what do you want? Come back and compromise. And that's exactly what he did. And guess what he added? That's what I don't think people recognize and realize, that it's just not a copy and a different version of For the People. The Freedom to Vote Act added the subversion, the sabotage, ways to address the sabotage. Because I think one of the delegates here talked about how legislatures and lawmakers across the country are doing just that. Trying to take the authority away from secretaries of state, from election boards. So that's what's added in the Freedom to Vote Act. And another key issue is, I bet you I could raise some hands, and people know someone or they have been a poll worker themselves. That was what's added in the Freedom to Vote, the protection, because poll workers across the country face threats and intimidation because of the work that they were doing. Senator Manchin added that to this bill, and that's why it's so important to get it passed. So think about that. That's why we're here. We're here for our friends and neighbors. I could go on and on about some of the issues, but my friends and colleagues here have addressed that about why it's so important. But one thing that I'll mention real quick, because I don't know if anybody saw the parody on Stephen Colbert. I mean, it was so creative, and for all you graphics people and video folks, it was awesome. It was beautiful. It made fun of us. Maybe rightly so, maybe wrongly so, but daggone, we're always the target of things when we don't have to be. I mean, that's the thing. But they talked about flooding. So here's my thing, and we've all been through floods, and we've all helped to clean up. And so my question is, when someone maybe have been flooded out, say you live in Clay County and you were flooded out, and then you were relocated to Braxton County, but you were a good voter, you were a registered voter, shouldn't you have the opportunity to vote and maybe just use same-day voter registration? Why should flooding make you ineligible to be able to vote? So come on, that's what's in this bill. And we asked Senator Capito to join Senator Manchin. We asked the county clerks and the Secretary of State. And if you can't see that in this bill, then you're being short-sighted and you're short-selling the people of West Virginia. So we're driving all over the state to show how important it is. And I'm fired up and I'm ready to go. So let's go, everybody. Woo!
Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to bring Kristen Olson up here. Kristen has been fighting for democracy now, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me through my mask? Hello, good morning. My name's Kristen. I live in Charleston in the great state of West Virginia. I'm a single mom. I'm so glad, first of all, to see so many of you here out here today this morning to speak out and use our voices to demand voting rights protections and expansions instead of voter suppression. I'm here today to tell Senator Manchin that we support the Freedom to Vote Act, and we need it now. Our backs are against the wall with voter suppression bills at an all-time high. This year alone, we're disproportionately targeting poor and low-wage voters and people of color across our nation. We have no choice but to push. In the name of the great John Lewis, it's time to make some good trouble. It's time to take a stand. I'm here today to tell my Senator Joe Manchin, we support the Freedom to Vote Act, written by John Lewis. Senator Manchin, we thank you for honoring the great legacy of our civil rights leader, John Lewis, who created this act with the intention to assist working families. We need the Freedom to Vote Act, which makes Election Day a holiday, making it easier for working people like me to get to the polls. This bill ensures 2 weeks of early voting with convenient, safe voting, and easy, accessible voter registration. This bill provides access to children like mine to be a part of a legacy shared by both John Lewis and now by Joe Manchin, who has a chance to build the democracy that we, the people, want. Not by those without our experience of struggle and oppression, but with our best interests in mind. We need the Freedom to Vote Act to protect this and grow this new unsettling force of voters across our nation. But it's not all we need. We need to pass a $15 an hour federal living wage. We need to end the cowardly filibuster. We need the $3.5 trillion Build Back Better plan. We need to lift America from the bottom up. Because when you lift from the bottom, everybody rises. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Next, I want to bring up Delegate Cliff Moore. Cliff has been fighting for West Virginia his whole career, and we're so honored to have you here today.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
As the grandson of a Pentecostal minister, and as the son of a man who served in this body for 28 years, and as a former delegate myself, I've never met a mic I didn't like in a crowd I didn't like to wow, but we're not here for that today. I just want to tell you something that happened to me many, many years ago that formed me as a person. We were having an issue with our local school board, and a few of the students got together to do a protest, do an intervention, an intercession to make sure the rules were changed so everybody could participate. Well, my principal came one day and got me out of class And he said, Cliff, you can't do that. And I said, Mr. Principal, why not? He said, because you're nobody. You can't influence the process. I went home that day, sort of depleted, dejected, and defeated. And I told my parents what happened, and I was crying because I knew I was somebody. Yes. My father and my mother grabbed my hands and put my hands in their hands, and they said, son, repeat after me. And they said to me, you are somebody. And I say to the voters in West Virginia, our actioneers, our pioneers, our mountaineers, that you are somebody. And don't let anybody tell you any differently. As American voters, as American citizens, we are somebody. As I leave the podium, let me just remind you of this. Rosa sat so Martin could walk. Martin walked so Barack could run. President Obama ran so all of us can soar. And I say we can soar even higher with the preservation and the passing of this Voting Rights Act. Thank you, everybody. Stay engaged, stay involved. Let's do it.
Thank you, Cliff. We're going to wrap this up by bringing on Gary Zuckett, who's the Executive Director of West Virginia Citizens Action Group.
Thank you, Ryan. I feel really great to be here with such a great crowd, good speakers here in Charleston, West Virginia at the state capitol, and heading to Charlestown, West Virginia, the 300-mile journey on this caravan for voting freedom. And I would like to just ask all of our watchers that are watching over the social media and over the TV to join us in Fairmont and join us in Morgantown and watch in Charlestown when we wrap up today, and then tomorrow when the relay starts, ending up in Washington, D.C. for voting rights. This is immense, this is important, and this is the best thing we could be doing right now. And thank you all for coming.
For those who are actually going to be on the caravan, could we meet over here in about 5 minutes? Caravanners over here in about